In a peaceful village nestled between green hills, there lived a humble shepherd named Ibrahim. He was known throughout the region not for his wealth, but for his kindness, wisdom, and compassion. Ibrahim was a man of deep faith in Allah and would often spend his days reflecting on the beauty of nature, the creatures around him, and the wonders of the world. However, there was one story about Ibrahim that touched the hearts of everyone who heard it, a story that would teach the true meaning of compassion, a compassion that goes beyond mere words. The shepherd and his flock. Every morning, Ibrahim would take his flock of sheep and goats to the pastures. The village children loved to follow him and hear his stories about the animals, the land, and the teachings of Islam. Ibrahim always told them that caring for animals was a sign of a person's goodness. "A good person is kind to all living things," he would say. "Allah created all creatures, and He loves those who are gentle with them." One day, as Ibrahim led his flock up to a quiet hill, he noticed a little lamb limping behind the rest. Its small leg appeared injured, and it was struggling to keep up with the others. Ibrahim immediately knelt down to examine the lamb. It was clear the poor creature had twisted its leg while running over the rocky ground. Ibrahim didn't hesitate. He gently lifted the lamb into his arms and whispered a prayer for its recovery. "Don't worry, little one," he said softly. "Allah is merciful, and He will guide me to help you." He carefully wrapped the lamb's injured leg with cloth and made a temporary splint from a nearby stick. As he tended to the lamb, one of the village men, Abdullah, who had been watching from afar, came over and spoke to Ibrahim. "Why bother with that injured lamb, Ibrahim?" he asked. "You have many other sheep to tend to. It's not even one of the best ones. Leave it here, and let nature take its course. Focus on the healthy ones. They're the ones that will bring you more reward." Ibrahim looked up at Abdullah with a gentle smile. "Every creature, no matter how small, is a gift from Allah. It is our duty to care for them, just as Allah cares for us," he said. "This lamb may not be the strongest, but it is still a living being, and I cannot ignore its suffering." The stranger and the journey. A few days later, Ibrahim was on his usual walk with the flock when he noticed a stranger passing by. The man looked worn out, tired, and hungry. His clothes were ragged, and his face was full of exhaustion. The stranger looked at Ibrahim and said, "I am in need of help. I have been traveling for days and have nothing to eat or drink. Please, kind shepherd, can you offer me some food or shelter?" Without hesitation, Ibrahim gestured for the man to follow him. "Come with me, friend," he said. "I will share what I have with you." Ibrahim led the stranger to a small, humble cottage on the edge of the pasture. There, he prepared some bread, cheese, and fresh milk from his goats. As they sat down together, Ibrahim asked the stranger about his journey. The man shared that he was traveling from a distant land, seeking to find work and a better life for his family. "Where are you heading?" Ibrahim asked. "I don't know," the man replied, his voice heavy with despair. "I have no place to go, and no one to turn to." Ibrahim listened carefully and then said, "You are welcome to stay with me for as long as you need. Allah's mercy is boundless, and we are all brothers and sisters in faith. I may not have riches, but what I have is yours." The stranger was deeply moved by Ibrahim's words and his hospitality. "You are a wise man," he said, looking at Ibrahim with gratitude. "I have never met anyone so kind and generous." Ibrahim smiled and replied, "True generosity comes from the heart. When you give with compassion, you give in the way Allah intends." A test of compassion. Several weeks passed, and Ibrahim's life continued in peaceful rhythm, caring for his flock and sharing his wisdom with those who sought it. However, a troubling event occurred one day. A powerful storm had struck the village, and the floods that followed had caused significant damage to many homes. People lost their crops, their animals, and their livelihood. Ibrahim's own pasture was affected, and several of his sheep were swept away by the floodwaters. As he stood by the edge of the rising water, watching his beloved sheep struggling to stay afloat, his heart broke. Yet, he remembered his lessons of faith and compassion. Despite the overwhelming loss, Ibrahim did not despair. He immediately gathered the other villagers and led a search to rescue as many of the sheep as he could. The floodwaters were high, and many villagers thought it was too dangerous to even attempt to save the animals. "There's no point," they said. "The waters are too strong. We've already lost so much." But Ibrahim did not give up. He continued searching through the muddy waters, calling out to his flock. And then, just when hope seemed lost, he spotted a sheep clinging to a tree branch. With great effort, he managed to pull the animal to safety. Ibrahim did not stop there. He helped many others who had lost animals and homes, offering whatever he could, whether it was food, shelter, or a helping hand. His compassion shone brighter than ever, and it was then that the people of the village began to understand the depth of his heart. A lesson of true compassion. In the weeks that followed, Ibrahim's actions became the talk of the village. He had lost many of his sheep, but he had saved others and helped rebuild the homes of his fellow villagers. One day, the man who had once been a stranger returned to the village. He had found work in a nearby town and had managed to send money back to Ibrahim as a token of his gratitude. "I remember your kindness, Ibrahim," the man said. "You helped me when I had nothing. Now I am in a better place, and I want to give back to you." Ibrahim smiled and shook his head. "You do not owe me anything," he said kindly. "The true reward for compassion is not in what we receive, but in what we give. When you help others, you help yourself in ways you cannot always see." The man was taken aback by Ibrahim's words. "But how can you be so selfless, Ibrahim? How do you find the strength to continue showing compassion, even in difficult times?" Ibrahim paused and looked up at the sky, as if reflecting on the deep wisdom of Allah. "Because compassion is the essence of our faith," he said. "When we help others, we are serving Allah. His mercy is infinite, and He rewards those who show kindness. When you have compassion for others, you not only uplift them, but you also uplift yourself." Moral of the story. True compassion is not just about helping when it's easy or convenient, but showing kindness and care even in difficult times. Allah rewards those who act with a pure heart, and through acts of mercy and generosity, we draw closer to Him. This story of Ibrahim the wise shepherd teaches us that true compassion is a reflection of our faith and that helping others, regardless of their circumstances, is a path to Allah's blessings.